Well, hello, everyone, and good evening to the Savvy Sales Lady Live. I appreciate you taking your time this evening to be with me and to learn just a little bit more about selling. Well, what we're going to be talking about tonight is why is it difficult to impact a prospect's sense of urgency? And should we? Okay, so let's dive into it. How many times have you heard, I'll need to think about it, right? From a prospect? Or let me get back to you in a few weeks with a decision, which never happens. Or how about, we're not in a rush. There's a few more vendors we'd like to interview and talk to. And how do most salespeople answer these questions? Well, how do you answer them? Do you say, sure, how about I get back to you in a few days? Or, okay, I'll circle back around then. Or, I understand. When would you like me to follow up? And all those three scenarios, what is the big glaring problem? They don't book an appointment to follow up right then and there. Or they shouldn't even be saying these things in the first place. So some people may even use fake deadlines. And this drives me crazy when they do this because the whole idea is not to make a fake deadline to strike deals, but the whole idea is to gain trust. So why would you try to trick the prospect? But I have heard this in coaching calls. I can get you a good deal, but our deadline is Friday. Or our special rate will not be available in a few weeks. I'd hate for you to miss it. Or we can price match any vendor. Oftentimes we can negotiate a lower price. I've heard that too. There's a better way to impact urgency. All right, so let's get into it. What's the most powerful sentence salespeople can use to influence urgency? Do you know? Would you put it in the comments if you know? Because questions are the most powerful a salesperson can use to influence urgency. Declarative statements, they will not create urgency. Questions inspire engagement. Your goal is to inspire prospects to converse with you, sharing information 80% of the time, while you, as the salesperson, should only be talking about 20% of the time. Remember the 80-20 rule? So, questions make prospects think and consider ideas. If the prospects ever makes a remark to you after you've asked a question like, that's a great question. I've never considered that before. Congratulations. You have now created curiosity, and your prospect is much more open to having a genuine conversation with you. But questions also influence because a question commands a response, right? Where if you make a statement, it doesn't. So, just like you want the prospect to feel curious about you and your product and service, the questions you ask the prospect suggest that you have a genuine curiosity on your part too. It shows you're interested in his or her problems, right? One of my favorites is tell me more about that. To me, that's a great question to gently prod the prospect for more information. So let's just say a prospect says to me, well, Christine, our sales team is not prospecting the way they should. So my response back would be, well, Jane, tell me more about that. So just remember that every statement you want to make can be better rephrased as a question. And I actually do this in my workshops, having them reframe statements as questions. So you might want to try that on your own too. But here's another thing. Are you imposing yourself on the prospect? Because everybody has a personal buying cycle, including you. Ask yourself these questions, all right? What amount of money is a lot to you? So, this is something we used to do when I was in the insurance industry. There were some insurance agents that were reluctant to sell certain insurance products because they would never buy them. Well, if you are selling a high ticket item, you may be thinking to yourself, oh, gee, I wouldn't spend that much money. And this is important for you to analyze because that could be holding you back from selling. So, how much money is a lot to you? How much can you spend that won't lead you into buyer's remorse? All right. So, let's say that you're going out looking to buy a car and you've decided you're only going to spend $25,000 on a car. And this is so typical in auto sales. And you end up buying a car that costs 35 to 40,000. So, they always qualify you. Oh, you can spend this much money, right? You had no intentions of spending that much money. And then you walk out of that dealership and you spent quite a bit more than you had anticipated spending. Then the next day, you start getting buyer's remorse. So, what is that? What is that tipping point for you that you would have buyer's remorse? And here's another important question to ask yourself. How long does it take for you to make a buying decision? Especially in a high ticket pricing point. How long would it take you to make that decision? And then the next one, my personal favorite. Do you buy quality or do you buy cheap? So, will you buy a $1,500 quality wool blend suit from Ralph Lauren, or will you go to Men's Warehouse and buy a $300 suit or a $200 suit? Do you buy quality or do you buy cheap? Whatever your answers are to these questions, these are the questions you impose on your buyers, right? So if it takes you 6 months to make a buying decision, for example, buying a house or buying a car, whatever the high ticket price is, then if you believe it should take that much time, then you'll also be sold when the prospect says to you that they need to think about it for 6 months because you're relating to that. Oh, yeah, it would take me 6 months to make that decision too. The prospect has sold you instead of you selling the prospect. And by the way, that's not a legitimate reason. It really isn't. And you know that too. You knew it when you said you knew it when you agreed to get back to him in 6 months. So refrain from imposing your personal buying decisions on the prospect. That's bottom line. So here's the key. You just can't sell anything. Let me go back. You just can't sell anyone anything. They have to discover that they need your product. So your job as a sales professional is to help prospects discover your products or services, that this is what they need and want. The only way to do this is by asking questions to draw out the pain points. Now, right after this short 30-second commercial, we'll come back and I'll go over with you the 8 questions to lead the prospect to flush out the pain points. Okay? So hold on right after this. If you like the Savvy Sales Lady Live, you're really going to like the Savvy Sales Lady newsletter. It's delivered in your inbox once a week. Why don't you go ahead and subscribe? The link is in the show notes below so you won't miss this upcoming newsletter. I give you one tip to focus on each week to implement immediately into your sales day. Why not sign up and learn just a little bit more? Yep, just learn a little bit more. I put the link in the comments section so you can easily sign up for the newsletter. All right, here are the 8 questions, okay? 8 questions to flush out the pain points. My personal favorite, tell me more about that. Another one is example. How long? What have you tried? What happens if you don't? How do you feel? Have you given up? How do you see me helping you? Now let's put it together. All right. Now, this example that I'm going to give you is an actual conversation I had recently with a prospect. And so I'm kind of paraphrasing it. I'm not giving you the entire conversation, but you'll get the gist of what I'm talking about with those 8 questions I just shared with you. So the prospect says to me, Christine, my sales team's not prospecting like they should. And I said, well, tell me more about that, Jane. And the prospect said back, they don't seem to be proactive about prospecting, and their CRMs are not kept up to date. Well, can you give an example of what proactive prospecting looks like to you? Well, it's certainly not waiting for leads to come through our website. And then I say back, how long has this been going on, or is this something fairly new with your team? Oh, it's been ongoing. They have no sense of urgency to develop their own leads. Well, what have you tried so far? LinkedIn training, monthly sales meeting, role playing. Well, what would happen if you don't get your teams to prospect effectively? What could happen? I just feel like we're losing so much business because the sales team isn't prospecting. I responded, well, how do you feel overall on a scale of 1 to 10? What would you rate the impact this is having on your business? Well, we're not meeting our sales goals and haven't for quite some time. So I'd say it's a 7 rating. Well, why isn't it an 8 rating? Always come back with a little higher than what they said. Okay. Jane said to me, because they are selling the leads that come through the website effectively. I'm sorry. Jane said, because they are not selling the leads that are coming through the website effectively. And I said back to her, have you given up? And she said, sometimes I feel it would be easier to hire an entirely new sales team. That's how frustrated this business owner was. And I said, well, how do you see me helping you? And she said, I'd like you to do an evaluation on my team and present some solutions. And I said back to her, how soon would you like to get started? Within the next 2 weeks, she said, if that will fit into your schedule. Okay. In that whole scenario, not one time did I talk about my coaching services, did I? Not one time. This is an example of how using questions can lead the prospect to open up and discover what they need. Sometimes they will even discover a need under a need. Now, our conversation, as I said, was much more deeper than what I presented to you just now, but I wanted to give you context of how it, ultimately flowed with this particular prospect who became a client, by the way. So, what I want you to do is write the 8 questions down and have them handy when you're prospecting. So, I want you to remember these next steps, okay? All right, here they are. First, you want to flush out the pain. Then, you want to have impact. What will happen if you don't fix your problem, Mr. or Mrs. business owner? I mean, I've even said, well, 6 months from now, if you haven't fixed it, what do you think will happen? So why did I give a time frame there? Because I don't want them to kick the can down the road 6 months, right? And then you want a commitment from them in their own words. How committed are you to fix it? Or how do you help? How do you see me helping you? All right. Now, I'm not saying I can help you. I know I can, but I'm asking them to come to that conclusion. How do you see me helping you? So let's get into negative selling. The illustration up on the screen is the buying line that prospects travel across before saying yes. Okay. The prospect in the beginning, and this was true with Jane. In the beginning, she at first didn't see a need of using a sales coach. So the prospect in the beginning just doesn't see the point of needing your products or services. Keep that in mind when you start that sales conversation. If they did, then it's just a transaction to them, right? So you have to help them through the buying timeline, their buying timeline. Then the prospect will transition into being ambivalent about your products or services, which can lead to loving your product and services because it's their idea to buy. So, in the beginning, you may feel the prospect resisting your call, but they politely listen and they tell you, I need to think about this. So, this is the most dreaded statement a salesperson can get because we all know it's not an honest answer. So, how do you answer that? Typically, a salesperson will take that statement literally, but what is the prospect really saying? Well, here's how you find out. I'm thinking this through. I missed a point. Okay, now I got my thoughts back. When you said, this is what you're going to say. Now, this is a more direct approach, so let me preface that first. I don't use this with everybody. So the prospect says, I need to think about it. And this is a very direct response. When you said that you need to think about it, are you sure you're just not being polite and don't want to say no to spare my feelings? I have said that before. Or you can say, I get the feeling I missed the mark. This is called negative selling. It's not my preferred method, but in certain situations, it works. It works because now you're being completely honest with the prospect, which you should always be completely honest. So when you make a statement like, I think I missed the mark, am I right? It will cause the prospect to open up too. Now, as I said, this can be blunt, but you can soften it by your tone and your emphasis. You just want a yes or no so you can move on. You can win fast and lose even faster. It doesn't matter. Just get an answer. The worst part of being in limbo with, well, I need to think about it or get back to me in 6 months. You know what will happen. Those are just excuses because they don't want to buy. They're trying to be polite. They don't want to hurt your feelings. You've got to find out, is this a true statement or did you miss the mark somehow? Chances are you missed the mark somehow. This is why I am so adamant, everyone. You've got to record your phone conversations or your Zoom calls. Even if I've been in face-to-face meetings where I asked the prospect, do you mind if I record this? I do it as a learning process for my own, for my, for myself. It's not for anybody else. I have yet to have anyone say, no, you can't record it. I've done this for years and I can't emphasize enough. Matter of fact, I just recorded a video earlier today on tone and emphasis that will be up tomorrow on LinkedIn if you want to look for it. It has some really good points in there. So, in the perfect world syndrome, okay, this is when the prospect tells you everything is fine and they have no need for your product or service. So here's another approach. They say, I'm good. No, I don't need your product or service. Everything's fine. And I say back to them, sounds like everything is perfect. I appreciate your time. Can I ask one more question? If I had a magic wand, okay, this is a spin on the magic wand question. You all know the magic wand question. If I had a magic wand, what would you change? I hate that. I twist it in a different way. Sounds like everything's perfect. I appreciate your time. Can I ask one more question? If I had a magic wand, you probably wouldn't use it, right? And I have seen prospects go, well, I don't know about that. I mean, it's not perfect here. Now you got somewhere to go. Their world isn't perfect. You know it and they know it. And then you can come back when they said, well, I don't know about that. Or, our world isn't perfect here. Well, can you tell me more about that? Then you're opening up the conversation again. Does that make sense, everyone? I hope it does. Any questions or comments I can answer for you since you're on? I appreciate you being here and watching, but I'm here to help you. So if you have any questions or comments, just put them in the questions and comments, and I'm happy to answer them. Doesn't have to be about this, could be about anything, right? So that's why I'm doing these trainings for you. All right. I'm going to give you a few more minutes to see if you have any questions or comments. If you don't, then I will see you Thursday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I am not going to give away what we're going to talk about. It will be good. I can tell you that. I hope you enjoy these free trainings that I'm giving you. Salespeople are near and dear to my heart because I had no one that helped me. I had to do it all myself, I had to pay for my own training. I had to learn it my own way. So I'm trying to help shorten your learning curve so you can learn it the right way. All right, everyone. I appreciate you being on. I don't see any comments or questions. I can see people are viewing, but no comments. That's fine. I'll see you Thursday night. And remember, sales is a journey, not a quick trip around the block. One more thought. My cold calling course is almost done. I know I've been saying that for a while, but my goal is to have it done by this weekend, and I'm close to it. So thank you all. Bye bye.